She slapped me across the face and demanded my keys. The next morning, she learned the truth. Olivia Santos gripped the worn leather strap of her tote bag a little tighter as she stepped through the sliding doors of the lobby. The clock's red digits glowed 6:45 p.m., and the fading Houston sun cast long shadows across the linoleum floor. She could hear the hum of the air conditioner struggling against the lingering summer heat. Her heels clicked softly as she hurried toward the receptionist's desk, where stacks of rental applications and maintenance requests sprawled in quiet disarray. After a 12-hour shift as assistant property manager at the Maplewood Apartments, a modest complex better known for its aging pipes than its amenities, Olivia just wanted to get home to her mother. At 57, Mrs. Reyes Santos took longer to get ready now, and Olivia often found comfort in her mother's warm kitchen. There's that homemade smell tinged with cinnamon and freshly brewed coffee mixed with milk. She had carried the exhaustion of work her whole life, but tonight felt heavier, not just physically. The building was calm but tinged with the usual murmurs of tenants settling in after a long day. Olivia's mind drifted briefly to the pile of unpaid bills she was mentally sorting over dinner, the estimate from the plumber, and her daughter's upcoming parent-teacher conference. All of it weighed as quietly as the small knot in her chest. Suddenly, the calm shattered. A sharp, angry voice cut across the lobby air like glass broken. You stole my keys." Olivia froze mid-step, pulse quickening. She turned slowly to face the source of the voice, a woman she had glimpsed once or twice but never spoken to, Miranda Bell, a striking figure in an impeccable suit, with eyes that bore down like storm clouds ready to burst. Before Olivia could respond, Miranda took a step forward, her sharp heels clicking resolutely on the tile. Without warning, her hand lashed out. The sting of the slap was immediate and searing across Olivia's left cheek. The echo bounced off the walls, drawing the attention of a few early evening passers-by. "Give me my keys. Now." Olivia's hand flew to her cheek, the shock and disbelief flooding her vision like a hailstorm of cold water. "What? I don't have your keys," she whispered, voice shaky, hope flickering weakly beneath the blossoming humiliation. Miranda's glare was icy, unyielding. "Don't lie to me, assistant manager. I saw you near my car. Stop hiding behind your little desk and give me the keys." The room felt suddenly too tight, the polished surfaces reflecting back the unintended cruelty. Tenants paused their comings and goings, their eyes darting between the raised voices and Olivia's stunned face. The hum of the street seeped in through the glass as a car horn blared somewhere nearby. But inside, Olivia's nerves roiled in silence. Her heart banged angrily in her ears, drowning out reason. "I swear, you have the wrong person," Olivia managed, swallowing hard. Her voice was small, betrayed by the tremble racing through her words. "You must be confusing me with someone else." But Miranda was already moving forward, fury sculpting her every gesture. "Don't make me call security. Please, wait." Another sharp breath left Olivia as the front door chimed. A figure appeared. Olivia's boss, Mr. Garland, mid-50s with a permanent scowl and a tie slightly loosened from the day's stress. His eyes narrowed as he took in the scene, Miranda belligerent, Olivia vulnerable and flushed. "What's going on here?" His voice cut through the tension like a dull knife. Miranda's lips curled into a harsh smile. "Your assistant manager has been stealing from me. I want her suspended immediately." Olivia's throat tightened. Mr. Garland's gaze flicked sharply to her, and without waiting for her side, he nodded stiffly. "Olivia, this kind of trouble is the last thing we need. Consider yourself warned." The words landed like cold stones, each syllable eroding a bit of her dignity in front of a crowd now watching with a mix of curiosity and judgment. As Miranda turned and strode away, head high, the murmur of whispered questions filled the space behind her. Olivia lowered her gaze, the heat rising to her temples. A faint tear escaped, tracing a path down her cheek, and she wiped it away hastily, unwilling to gift anyone the sight of her breaking. Her hands still trembling, she grabbed her bag and slipped toward the exit, the first heavy drops of rain beginning to tap against the glass doors, matching the storm brewing deep inside her. That night, as Olivia sat in her mother's cramped kitchen, the echo of the slap still tingling, she wrestled with disbelief. Had she really been so visible and yet so invisible to others? The humiliation was sharp, but beneath it flickered a stubborn flame. She wouldn't let this be the end of her story. Not yet. The lobby seemed to shrink under the weight of Miranda Bell's accusations. Olivia's cheeks still stung where the slap had landed, a sharp reminder of how quickly things had spiraled out of control. Tenants who had been passing paused abruptly, glassy-eyed and whispering, their gazes swinging between Olivia and Miranda like a spotlight searching for fault. The sharp scent of polished wood, mingled with stale coffee, wafted through the air. But for Olivia, the only thing she registered was the pounding in her ears and the flush creeping up her neck. I don't know what you're talking about," Olivia stammered, her voice low, trembling beneath the torrent of disbelief. "I haven't taken anything of yours." Miranda's eyes narrowed, icy and unforgiving. She stood tall and unyielding, like a judge passing sentence. "Stop playing innocent. I saw you, near my car, in an empty hallway. You were holding something, a set of keys that weren't yours." Heart pounding, Olivia glanced around, hoping for some ally, a friendly face, a shred of trust. But the crowd felt thick, a tide pulling her under. A mother with a stroller gave a quick glance and snickered. A teenage boy smirked before looking away. The receptionist shifted uncomfortably behind her desk, pretending to busy herself with paperwork. "Miranda, please," Olivia said, trying to steady her voice. "There must be some mistake." But Miranda wasn't listening. Her voice pitched higher, sharp as shattered glass. "Mistake? You think I'm blind? I want those keys now or I'll have you fired. This is theft, not just some minor misunderstanding." From somewhere nearby, a phone started ringing, a shrill, unhappy sound cutting through the tension. "And maybe security should be called," Miranda added with a cold smirk. Olivia's breath caught, her palms slick with sweat. Her name, once just whispered in passing, now echoed loudly, tangled with words she couldn't undo. As if summoned by the escalating scene, her boss, Mr. Garland, emerged from the doorway, his expression tight and unreadable. His heavy footsteps echoed across the tile as he stopped beside Miranda, folding his arms. His eyes flicked to Olivia with an unfamiliar edge. Disappointment, maybe suspicion, before settling on Miranda. "What's the trouble here, Mr. Garland?" Garland's voice cut through the murmurs. Miranda wasted no time in answering. "This woman was stealing my keys. I caught her red-handed." Olivia opened her mouth to protest, but no words came out. The room seemed to hold its breath. The hum of the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering faintly, as if sensing the unease. Mr. Garland's gaze locked on Olivia, cold and sharp. "Is this true?" he demanded. "No, sir," Olivia managed, voice barely above a whisper. "I swear, I didn't take anything." But the boss just shook his head, lips pressed thin. "I don't want any trouble here. If there's even a suspicion," Miranda interrupted with a nod of fierce satisfaction, "I want her suspended immediately." The finality in his tone was a blow. "You're warned, Olivia. Any more problems, and you're out." The humiliation settled like a weight around Olivia's shoulders. Her hands twitched, the small nerve endings burning with shame and helplessness. A slow, prickling heat grew behind her eyes, blurring her vision. She fought to hold back the tears, swallowing the lump lodged in her throat. Miranda turned on her heel, glancing back with a triumphant smile. Tenants watched, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably, but silent. Olivia took a shuddering step back, the sting on her cheek not just physical, but a deep ache rooted in injustice. Each heartbeat sounded like a drum in her ears as she fought to steady her breath. She felt exposed, small under the harsh fluorescent lights, an invisible woman flung into a glare no one wanted to touch. When the door chimed softly behind her, She didn't hear it. She only felt the soft rush of cool evening air as she slipped out, her hands still trembling. Was this how things were now? Would nobody listen to her side? A question rose quietly in her mind, a tentative thread of hope she didn't know if she dared pull. Could she fight back against the storm closing in? That night, Olivia sat alone in the dim glow of her cramped apartment, the faint hum of a city winding down outside her window. Her fingers danced nervously across the keyboard, crafting an email she hoped would pierce the fog of misunderstanding and paint a truer picture of what had transpired that day. The words came carefully, each sentence a fragile plea for justice and understanding. She explained calmly, though inside, her mind was a whirlwind of frustration and disbelief, that she had never taken Miranda's keys, that she had been nowhere near the accused car. She appealed to Mr. Garland's sense of fairness, hoping he would see reason beyond the angry accusations. But as hours slipped by, no reply came. The read notification stayed stubbornly absent. The silence was heavier than any shouted insult. In the days that followed, the tension at Maplewood Apartments thickened like a sudden storm cloud. Whispers clawed through the halls, popping up in the most mundane places. A snide comment from a neighbor in the laundry room, a cold shoulder at the mailboxes, the discreet shuffling of eyes avoiding her as she passed through the lobby. Olivia's stomach churned with every sideways glance, every muttered name not meant to reach her ears. Her office door became a battleground of humiliation. One morning, she found yellow post-it notes plastered across the window. Thief, watch your keys, and a crude sketch of a hand clutching a set of keys. The laughter of tenants drifted from the hallway, sharp and mocking. The sting cut deeper than the slap ever had. For a moment, the idea of quitting seeped into her thoughts like a slow poison. Maybe this wasn't worth the daily torment, the whispered judgments, the isolation, the weight of suspicion suffocating her spirit. But when she called her mother late that evening, the familiar warmth in her voice was a balm against the cold. "Honey, you're stronger than this. Don't let them define you," her mother said softly. "Truth has a way of coming to light. Keep your head up." With a deep breath, Olivia wiped away the tears gathering in the corners of her eyes. She refused to fade into the background or bow beneath this unfair shadow. During her next shift, driven by a flicker of hope, Olivia stayed long after the tenants had gone to bed. She slipped through the silent hallways to the security office, her footsteps muffled by the faded carpet. The dim blue glow of the monitors cast ghostly reflections across her weary face as she navigated the system, searching carefully for the surveillance footage from the day of the incident. But when she pulled open the files, her breath caught in her throat. The critical segments, any footage showing the lobby and parking area around the time of Miranda's accusations, were gone. Erased or never recorded, she couldn't tell. The empty folders on the screen mocked her, filling her with suspicion that the truth was being buried right under her nose. A cold dread settled in her chest. Who else knew about this? Who would benefit from silencing the cameras? Olivia leaned back in the chair, hands clasped tightly together. Fighting to steady the whirlwind of fear and anger inside her, she reminded herself, every setback was another reason to keep searching, for evidence, for allies, for a way to reclaim her name. If nothing else, she told herself quietly, she would not let this injustice define her future, not without a fight. As sunlight burned unforgivingly through the gray morning sky as Olivia walked across the parking lot, her steps slow and heavy with the weight of dread. The air was thick and humid, the kind of Houston morning that felt like a promise of storms to come. Yet, there was a sharper storm waiting for her beneath the distant hum of traffic. The one gathering right at the edge of the apartment lot. Her heart pounded unevenly as the faint murmur of voices grew into something louder. A gathering crowd silhouetted against the rows of tired cars. And there she was, Miranda Bell standing at the center, her posture rigid, eyes ablaze with accusation. "You're a liar and a thief." Miranda's voice sliced through the crowded lot, cold and venomous. Her words hung heavy in the humid morning air, wrapping around Olivia like chains. A ripple of murmurs broke out among the spectators. Tenants who had only recently learned the story, but had drafted their judgments without a second thought. Olivia's chest tightened, the familiar sting of humiliation settling deep. Eyes stared with suspicion, lips whispered with certainty. She felt the crushing burden of being seen as guilty, despite the gnawing certainty in her own heart that she was innocent. Before she could respond, a grim shadow fell beside her. Mr. Garland appeared, his features hardened by a morning spent wrestling with decisions that now seemed irrevocable. Olivia Santos, his voice carried over the whispers like a hammer striking an anvil. Pending our investigation, you are suspended, effective immediately. Each word was like cold iron pressed against her chest. Her hand instinctively flew to her uniform badge, the small plastic rectangle that symbolized the life she had built. With trembling fingers, she unclipped it and handed it over as if relinquishing more than just an ID. Her job, her stability, her dignity, all seemed to hinge on that tiny card. The crowd's eyes burned into her skin, some filled with sympathy, many more with doubt. Olivia felt exposed and utterly alone, despite the mass of bodies around her. The air was thick, hot with judgment, and she could barely breathe beneath the invisible weight they all imposed. A stinging tear escaped, trickling down as she lifted her gaze just long enough to catch her reflection in the store windows across the lot. The woman she saw back stared fiercely but quietly. A woman battered, yes, but not broken. "Why?" she whispered into the suffocating silence, the word barely audible against the distant rumble of the city. She swallowed down the lump in her throat, her hands curled into fists at her sides. The shame was unbearable, a sharp, relentless ache that gnawed at her core. Yet even in this darkest moment, a fragile ember of resolve flickered within her, a silent promise that this was not the end of her story. With one last, steadying breath, Olivia turned on her heel. The crowd's judgment followed her like shadows, stretching long across the asphalt. But her mind raced ahead, plotting the uncertain path toward clearing her name and reclaiming her worth. Had this crushing rock bottom extinguished her light, or was it simply the hard ground from which she would rise? As Olivia gathered her things, her worn leather tote slung over her shoulder, keys clinking softly against the metal ring, her mind reeled with the events of the past days. The harsh glare of suspicion and the sting of betrayal still lingered like a thick fog around her. Yet beneath the heavy weight, a quiet spark of hope flickered. Her phone vibrated. The screen lit up with a message from Jackson, the maintenance worker, a steady presence since her troubles began. He had always been respectful and kind, never part of the whispering crowd. Olivia's fingers hesitated before opening the text. "Hey Olivia, I was thinking about the security cameras. Remember when I cleaned the lobby camera lens yesterday? I noticed something odd, a neighbor's friend fiddling with stuff near Miranda's in your cars. I can help you look through the backup server. It might have clips the main system doesn't show." The pulse in Olivia's chest quickened. A hidden backup server? A fresh lead beyond the dead ends she had faced? Her mind raced through the possibilities, each tiny moment she had overlooked now glowing with new significance. She typed back, "Yes, thank you. I'd appreciate your help very much." That evening, the lobby was empty except for the chilled hum of the fluorescent lights and the soft thud of Jackson's boots on the linoleum floor. Together, they sat side by side in front of the security monitors, their faces bathed in the bluish glow. Jackson's hands moved quickly and expertly across the keyboard, navigating layers of hidden folders Olivia hadn't known existed. Minutes stretched, frames flickered, paused, rewound. Suddenly there, captured on grainy black and white footage, was a figure leaning suspiciously close to the drop box, where residents left keys for temporary access. The person fumbled awkwardly, fingers shifting keys between hands. The camera angle was limited, but it was enough to catch a glimpse of a familiar silhouette. Alicia, a friend often seen visiting Miranda. Olivia's breath hitched. There it was, The missing piece. The footage continued, revealing Alicia leaving a small note on Olivia's desk. Her handwriting looped casually. "Sorry, mixed up keys. Hope it's okay." The casual insincerity gnawed at Olivia's gut. How could Miranda not know her friend was this careless? Olivia murmured, the flood of relief mingling with anger. Jackson looked at her with quiet encouragement. "You've got proof now. Real evidence. Maybe this can change everything." As the night deepened, Olivia felt the tide turning within her. The whispering shadows crowding her days began to thin, replaced by a resolve that shimmered tight and clear. This discovery wasn't just a piece of footage. It was a lifeline, a key to reclaiming her story from the false accusations that had tried to drown it. The next morning, nerves prickling beneath her calm exterior, Olivia stood in the lobby, her fingers gripping the printed stills and video files. She waited, ready to face Miranda and her boss, armed not with desperation, but with truth. Could evidence like this cut through walls of doubt and fear? Could it illuminate the injustice that had clouded her life? And most importantly, would it be enough to make the world listen and finally see? Sometimes, the faintest flicker of hope was all you needed to begin fighting back. The night had settled deeply over the city of Houston, the distant hum of traffic fading into the darkness, as Olivia and Jackson sat side by side in the cluttered little maintenance office. The faint glow of computer monitors cast pale blue shadows on their faces, illuminating the tension and determination etched into Olivia's features. With a slow click and soft whispers between them, Jackson navigated through layers of digital files tucked away in the apartment complex's security system, a hidden backup server that had seemed almost mythical until now. Frames of grainy black and white video flickered on the screen, each moment frozen in time, revealing bits and pieces of the puzzle Olivia had so desperately needed to solve. And then it appeared, a figure, unmistakably Alicia, Miranda Bell's high society friend, leaning over the lobby drop box, fingers fumbling and shifting a set of keys. The camera caught her hesitating before she slipped the keys inside her own purse. A careless smile twisted on her lips, as if she hadn't the slightest worry about being caught. Olivia's breath caught. The image was grainy, but clear enough to unravel the tangled web of false accusations. Her pulse thudded heavy in her chest as the video fast-forwarded, revealing Alicia's casual walk past the receptionist's desk, and then, more pointedly, the moment she placed a crumpled note on Olivia's workspace. The shaky handwriting read, "Sorry, mixed up keys, hope it's okay." A cruel mockery masked beneath a thin veneer of apology. Jackson leaned back, breaking the silence. "This is it. This changes everything. You have what you need to prove your innocence." Olivia swallowed hard, the mix of relief and quiet anger swelling inside her. Why would Miranda believe Alicia so quickly? How could she not see the truth was right here in front of everyone? Jackson gave a nod of understanding, but said nothing. The night air hung heavy with possibility and the faint promise of justice. Olivia sat up straighter, her fingers gripping the edges of the chair. "Tomorrow, I'll confront them. I'll show the truth to everyone. The tenants, Mr. Garland, Miranda. I can't let this lie define me any longer." Her voice was firm, steady, filled with a resolve that had been absent for far too long. Jackson smiled gently. "I'll be there. You won't be alone." As the clock ticked past midnight, Olivia allowed herself a moment's calm. The path ahead was still uncertain, the anticipation prickling at her skin like static electricity. But armed with undeniable proof, she felt the heavy fog of doubt begin to lift. In this quiet, dim room, illuminated by flickering screens and determined hearts, the scales of justice began to tilt. Tomorrow would bring the reckoning, and Olivia was ready. A lobby was already buzzing with quiet anticipation when Olivia arrived, the soft murmur of tenants blending with the distant whoosh of the air conditioning vents. The faint, musky scent of worn carpet and old coffee mingled in the warm Houston afternoon. Olivia's fingers curled tightly around the folder in her hand, the stack of printed security footage and still images offering a tangible weight beneath her palm, a weight heavier than any accusation had pressed upon her in recent weeks. Her heart thudded in her chest, a mix of nerves and quiet resolve. This was her moment, not just to defend her name, but to reclaim her dignity. Miranda Bell stood near the front desk, shoulders rigid, eyes darting between the crowd gathering. Nearby, Mr. Garland hovered, his usual scowl temporarily softened by curiosity. Olivia noted the subtle shift in the tenant's expressions, expectant, waiting to see what would unfold. Taking a deep breath, Olivia stepped forward, her voice clear and steady, slicing through the murmurs. "I ask you all here today because I have something important to show you. This isn't just about accusations or rumors, it's about the truth." She laid the folder on the desk and clicked the remote, the flickering image coming alive on the lobby monitor. The footage revealed Alicia, Miranda's friend, fumbling with keys inside the drop box, her fingers shifting from one set to another with careless ease. The frame paused on the note Alicia left on Olivia's desk, the mocking handwriting stark against the bland paper. The room fell silent. Miranda's face went pale, lips parting in a silent gasp, the confident armor she'd worn all this time cracking. Eyes wide, she muttered, This doesn't change anything." But Olivia's voice was firm, unwavering. "It does. It shows who the real culprit is. I never took your keys or tried to steal from anyone." Alicia's actions caused this misunderstanding. A few tenants whispered among themselves, some nodding, others frowning in newfound doubt. Mr. Garland stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Olivia, I want to apologize for not believing you from the start. We owe you better than this." He pulled out the work badge from his pocket and handed it back to her. "Your suspension is lifted, effective immediately." Relief and pride surged through Olivia in a warm, sweeping wave. The tremor she'd felt for weeks began to still, replaced by the steady beat of confidence awakening anew. Miranda, unable to meet her eyes, finally spoke, voice low and shaky. I retract my accusations." The tenants around them murmured in support of Olivia, a few clapping softly. Voices rang out with encouragement and apologies, and with each one, Olivia stood a little taller, the shadows of doubt fading away. When the crowd began to disperse, Olivia caught Jackson's eye across the room. He gave a small nod, a quiet acknowledgement that she hadn't fought this battle alone. In that moment, standing tall and finally seen for who she truly was, Olivia felt the strength that had been within her all along. The power of truth, kindness, and perseverance had tipped the scales. No longer the overlooked assistant or the target of harsh judgment, Olivia was reborn, capable, deserving, and radiant with the quiet dignity that comes from a hard-fought victory. The lobby was quiet now, the last of the tenants having drifted back to their apartments, their earlier whispers replaced by the soft hum of the evening air. Olivia Santos stood by the reception desk, the gentle glow from the overhead lights casting warm shadows across her face, its lines softened by a calm she had fought hard to reclaim. Around her, the apartment complex no longer felt like a courtroom or a stage for public shaming, but a community reborn, not because of grand gestures or loud declarations, but through quiet understanding and hard-won trust. She thought back to the days when no one had given her a second glance, the nights she spent poring over rent sheets while her mother waited for her at home, the sting of Miranda's accusations, and the cold silence of her boss, who had once doubted her. Yet it was those trials that had shaped the strength now steady in her chest. "People are quick to judge," Olivia whispered to herself, her voice barely louder than the breeze that slipped through the open window. "Faster than they listen, faster than they seek the truth. But standing tall, standing with dignity and patience, that's how the truth finds its way." Across the lobby, a young mother lingered on the edge of the exit, her eyes meeting Olivia's, filled not with suspicion, but with admiration. Nearby, an elderly tenant gave a small nod of respect, a silent apology for past doubts. These small, quiet connections were the true victory, a rebuilding of trust, stronger and more resilient than before. Her phone buzzed softly in her pocket, a message from her mother lighting up the screen. "Proud of you, sweetheart. You've always had the strength. Never forget your worth." A smile touched Olivia's lips, a gentle release of the tension she had carried for so long. The lowest moments, she realized, weren't the end. They were the forging ground for courage and grace. Leaning against the counter, Olivia felt a calm resolve settle over her. Authority and loud voices could command attention, but they couldn't claim respect. That belonged to those who acted with kindness, humility, and integrity. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight was a quiet victory, a testament to perseverance and the unshakable belief in her own inner worth. As she stepped out into the cooling night, the city lights twinkling like distant stars, Olivia held a lesson close to her heart. Sometimes the hardest battles lead to the most profound growth, and standing for the truth, when it matters most, was the bravest thing anyone could do. What truths lie waiting beneath the surface of your own story, waiting to be uncovered? Sometimes all it takes is the courage to stand and be seen. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button. See you in our next story.